This video will explore the idea of coherence in science instruction. The first half of the video shows the different types of coherence. The second half illustrates how connections among concepts can be made and how these connected concepts are linked to the big idea. Instructional coherence can have several different meanings. It can mean the alignment of instructional components and assessments. It can focus on building understanding from one grade level to the next. And it can involve making connections among different disciplines. Content coherence occurs when concepts are presented to show that they are interconnected and build upon each other. This video will focus on content coherence using the genetics unit from biology concepts and practices as an example. One big idea in biology is that genetic information is stored in DNA. This idea involves three components: the molecular basis of traits, inheritance of traits, and variation. Each component is comprised of specific concepts. For example, understanding how genes are responsible for traits involves knowing that genetic information is encoded in the arrangement of nucleotides, that genes encode proteins that are responsible for traits, and that information is transferred from DNA to mRNA to protein. Understanding how traits are inherited involves knowing that DNA passes information for traits from one generation to the next, that chromosomes are made of DNA and protein, and that genes are located on chromosomal DNA. Understanding how variation occurs involves knowing that most human cells have 2 copies of each chromosome and therefore 2 copies of each gene, or 2 alleles, that alleles encode identical proteins or variants of a protein, and that variation in a trait can result from the expression of a variant protein. The big idea and its components give students a mental map for organizing concepts. This approach applies to any discipline and any big idea in that discipline. In addition to this hierarchy, deeper understanding requires more. Too often, students end up memorizing concepts as disconnected facts that are not developed sequentially in relation to other ideas. Come exam time, their learning is actually just an accumulated jumble of facts to be regurgitated and then quickly forgotten. Deeper learning occurs when students encounter ideas in a connected, sequential way. An initial concept is introduced, such as one on DNA encoding information, and a second concept or fact, such as one on the nature of the genetic code, is then connected to the first one. The next 4 concepts are then presented in relation to our previous concepts. Together, they prepare students to explore how variation of traits occurs at the molecular level. Coherence lies not just in the sequence of concepts, but also in the many connections that can be made explicit among the concepts. Introducing concepts this way shows how the components of the big idea are related and can lead to a greater understanding of the big idea. There is also more than one way to sequence the introduction of concepts, but even with a different order, the connections among concepts remain similar. While the sequence of introducing concepts can vary, the key to deeper understanding is in making connections among the concepts.